Good afternoon, dear friends. Welcome you to the Success at CA exams organized by the Board of Studies for Final Paper 4, Direct Tax Laws and International Taxation. Today, I am your mentor of the session, CA Aparna Chauhan. This paper, Final Paper 4, is the core subject of CA curriculum. And definitely, it has a great relevance in your practicing professionals also. Since this paper, direct tax laws are the paper which this subject is such is a very dynamic subject. We keep on changing with the passing of annual finance acts, right? So it is very essential for you that you should abreast yourself with the latest developments taking place in this subject. These are the basic things that you are going to appear in September 25 examination, and you must all be aware of which finance act is relevant for your particular exams, and accordingly which would be your relevant assessment year. If we talk about what is applicable finance act for September 25 exam, let's just brush up immediately that the finance number 2 act 2024 is relevant for September 25 examination. Accordingly, the relevant assessment year is your assessment year 25-26. And the cutoff date has a specific relevance. Why I'm saying cutoff date? The Finance Act, though the Finance Act was passed last year, this Finance Act, and now the new Finance Act also been tabled and it's been passed. Finance Act 25, but that is not relevant for your November examination, right? Even though the cutoff date is 28th February, the cutoff date is relevant for you for the purpose of significant notifications and circulars. So how you do about go about this notification circulars? By the notification circulars, cutoff date is 28th February, and why this Finance number 2 Act 2024? See, the Finance Act bring out many developments, many updates in the Income Tax Act 1961 every year. And it is mainly applicable for a particular assessment year. For example, this Finance number 2 Act 24 is relevant for your assessment year 25-26, right? And the Finance Act 25 will be relevant for your assessment year 26-27. But for you, since the relevant assessment year is this AY 25-26, accordingly, whatever be the Income Tax Act provisions as amended by the Finance number 2 Act 24, that would be relevant for you. Right. So here the notifications and circulars are issued by the central government or the CBDT for just substantiating the provisions of the law itself, right? So law has been amended with the Finance number 2 Act, but for substantiating those laws, for adding value to those laws, the notifications and circulars are being issued by the central government or the CBDT that are relevant for you, because there are certain things which the parliament leaves to the central government or to the CBDT to notify later stages. So for that purpose, the significant notifications and circulars issued up to 28th February 25 are relevant for you. Right now, if you are aware of these things, then what are the BoS publications? Because we keep on releasing the annual publications which are specifically for the direct tax laws paper. It is very essential that you should go through or study only from the latest and relevant publications, right? If we talk about the study material, this is the basic foundation for the subject. That study material, the November 24 edition that was being released for May 25 and November 25. But now, since we are conducting the exam 3 times in a year, the said study material, November 24 edition is relevant for your May exams, September exams, and January 26 exams. Okay, so for September or it is January 26, the same study material is relevant for you. That is November 24 edition. So since I am talking annually, certain amendments are being taking place. How we cater these amendments in the study material? If you see, the amendments which are being made by the finance acts are being given in your bold or italics. The new provisions, insertions, the amended provisions given in the study material are highlighted by making them italics or in bold manner. Right, and the circulars or notification which were not covered in the earlier notification, but we come out with the stat update. That also we keep in mind, we consider while doing our study material updations. So stat update are the things which we are talking about. The cutoff date 28th February 25. This publication, the stat update, is covers those notification circulars which are not covered in your study material, right? So we have released the study material in November exams, but after that certain notifications and the circulars have come out, have been released. Those are being covered in your stat update, which we have released separately for each examination. For September 25 examination also, the Board of Studies have released that publication. It is always advisable to you, please download that publication from the website. Go through the website and download it. It's a very, very relevant publication. From that many questions are being asked in the past examinations, considering the notification, considering the circulars. These are essential publication for your this subject. Now the judicial updates. What is the judicial update? See, at final label, you are supposed to be aware of how the decisions are being passed by the high courts and the Supreme Court. You are being tested on those case laws also, because in the provisions of law are, have multiple interpretations. For that reason, certain disputes are also arising. To settle those disputes, the cases goes to the high court or the Supreme Court. So whatever be the decisions being passed by these high courts and Supreme Courts, the significant one are being covered in the judicial update. Apart from this judicial update, see, this judicial update not only it's not only the single publication where you will get your significant select cases. However, in the study material as well, whatever be the significant select cases are covered at the end of your chapter. So you should go through those select cases also while doing the this your preparations, and also keep in mind, take this judicial update also, because it is happening in the last exams also. The questions are being based on the judicial update case laws. So you please go through that publication, which is available on the BoS Knowledge Portal website. In RTP, if you say, the RTP is for the purpose of revisionary purpose, right? And mainly what we try to cover in the RTP, we try to cover the RTP, the amended provisions, basically the questions which are being included in the RTP are, we try to frame based on the latest amendments. To please refer the RTP for September 25 examination. The plus point for you is that you can also refer the revisionary test paper which we have issued for May 25 examination. Please, you can refer that also and do take this RTP for September 25 examination. Apart from this study material, start update, judicial update, when you are doing this study from the study material, do that reading along with the start update and the judicial update, right? When you do once completed your study from that, then you please practice your case scenario booklet. Why I'm saying case scenario booklet? Because your 30% paper will be based on your case scenario based MCQs, and remaining will be in descriptive format. So case scenario booklet you take up only once you finish your study from your study material, and this time definitely now it is the right time to take up all your RTPs, your mock test papers, your case scenario booklet, because this is your revisioner time. This time is for your revision purpose, and you are supposed to aware of you have already studied your whole content of the subject earlier, and this is your revisionary times. For that purpose, now you can take up your case scenario booklet, and you then, after doing your case scenario booklet, you can jump to your model test paper. Model test paper is a publication which comprises of 6 mock test paper series. Basically mock test papers, there are 6 mock test papers are given, and it is the replica of your question paper. The format the questions paper will be asked, the question will be there for this subject. It's a replica of that question paper. So how you can do this model test paper? Once you studied thoroughly all these publications, then you do your model test paper and try to solve this model test papers in the examination condition. This publication actually will be helping you to assess your preparedness and will help you to manage the time during the examination. This is a relevant publication. In that angle, you can assess your preparedness for the examination, and it will be definitely when you are attempting in your 3 hours and 15 minutes reading time for the descriptive papers, that will help you to manage your time during the examination. Okay, so take up these 6 papers in a some part durations, and when you done your for example this model test paper given in this first model test paper you have done, then give some time. Then after some time you again pick up the another paper, and then you practice in this manner this model test paper series. Now what is the next thing? Section wise weightages. Let me tell you the time management and the judicial update, how you will get the judicial update if you go to our website. Here the amendment portion, basically if I tell you about the amendment portion where you will get the amendments, basically the past exams people students keep on asking that from where we will get these amendments. If you go to our initial pages of Module 1, if you go to our initial pages, we have just covered the overview of selected key amendments. It will just brushing up your amendments which are being made by the Finance Number 2 Act 2024, right? So you go through that, but definitely it will not substitute your in-depth understanding of these provisions. For understanding these provisions, you definitely have to go through that particular respective chapter for have a better understanding of these amended provisions. It is advisable to go through the respective chapters also, but for revising the amendments at one go, you can refer this initial pages of your study material, right? If you noted, let's just go through, these are the amendments. Basically, one important thing now, this time the amendments are being made from mid of the year. Mid of the year, for example, the long-term capital gains, if you talk about this thing, period of holding, the capital gains base actually being changed from mid of the year, that is your 23rd 7/24. So it means ki up to 22nd the old provisions are relevant, and after this 23/7 only the new provisions will be applicable. So the dates actually is very important to remember the dates, basically, because you have to look for the information, you have to look for the dates when the transactions are being taking place for the purpose of applying the new provisions or the old provision, as the case may be, right? Specifically, if you talk about the capital gains, these are being affected from are applicable with effect from 23rd July 2024, right? And apart from this long-term capital gains, if you talk about, then your tax on buyback of shares. Buyback of shares. Earlier, the buyback of shares were exempt in the hands of the recipient, but now, after this 1st October 2024, this is being taxable in the hands of the recipient as dividend, right? They are making it taxable as dividend, even though it is just and then the amount, what whole consideration, whatever you are receiving on the buyback of shares, whole thing will be chargeable to tax as dividend. And what about the cost of acquisition? And what will happen? They have specified the manner, then your long-term capital loss will arise. Whole of your cost of acquisition will be considered as your short-term capital loss or long-term capital loss, depending on the period of holding of these shares, right? So it is very essential. You should be aware of these provisions, basically the cutoff date. If it is taking place beforehand, then the company is required to pay the tax on the dividend that buyback share distribution tax the company is required to pay, and the amount is taxable in the not is exempt in the hands of the unit holders or the shareholders, right? So in that case, the earlier provisions are being applied. On making it taxable, again the TDS provisions, because TDS the government want to track on these transactions, they have implemented the concept of TDS, tax deducted at source or tax collected at source. Once the amount is, they make it chargeable to tax as dividend, they have again inserted a provision to this same in it is being taxable as dividend. So they have amended the section 194 also to make it liable for a tax deduction at source at the rate 10%. So don't forget about the TDS provisions. Also, TDS provisions are also attracted if the buyback takes place after 1st October 2024. So this is 1st October. Again, they are talking about the 1st October, the mid of the year. Then if you go and see this TDS rates, in TDS again, they have reduced certain rates from 5% to 2% for in 194D, DA, G, H, IBM. So in these provisions, basically they use the rates that is also effective from 1st October 24. So please remember these dates. One day before your examination, do go through and revise the rates, revise these dates. It is being implemented. This is very, very important for this time amendments. Specifically, if I tell you this time amendments are being implemented with in a mid of the year, so you are supposed to, you please go through and revise again day before the examination these dates. Okay, so from here you can just go through the amendments. Okay, and now next thing is section wise weightage. If I am talking about your section wise weightages, see, this paper, if broadly speaking, is divided into 3 sections. First is your substantive provisions. The another is your procedural law. Income Tax Act itself is divided into in that manner. That first are the substantive provisions. Substantive provisions, if we talk about, then it is for the purpose of computing your total income and the tax liability. Whole of income tax, definitely main question is what is your income and how you are going to determine your total income, right? So substantive provisions are the provisions which help you to determine your total income and the tax liability. Then the procedural, definitely the procedural aspect. Once the thing is taxable, then the procedure is like that you have to pay and deposit the tax to the government. Then certain disputes also arises, for that appeals and revisions provisions are there. Then the persons who are making the payments to the pays, then they are required to deduct the tax deducted at source, or the recipient of certain amount they have to, before collecting, they have to collect the TCS also. So the procedural laws are there. The assessment procedure thing is there, that you are supposed to file your return of income. Since you are paying the tax, you have to determine your self-assessment tax, right? In that way. Then your income tax authorities, who are the authorities who can do the searches, who can do the surveys? These are the income tax authority provisions. Then your miscellaneous provisions are there. Miscellaneous provisions are really, really very important for you. Go through those provisions. There are some specific sections, but really very important sections. So please go through that. So this is procedural law, and then your tax audit. Of course, tax audit and ethical compliance is the new scheme. Is being changed in the new scheme, that it is also being included in your direct tax paper. This is important chapter. One of the very, very important chapter, where one or the other questions will definitely going to be asked from this tax audit and ethical compliances. Then your the two sections we have talked about, the substantive provisions and your procedural law. Then the last one is your international taxation. International taxation have a wide range of professional opportunities. I must say professional opportunities in the international taxation. There is a specific section is being given in this paper also, to have a basic understanding of this international tax law provisions. What are these provisions? It has a specific weightage. So according to the provisions of the income tax law, the weightage are being assigned. The subsection 1 and in section 1, the overall weightage is 40 to 45%. Again, it is being divided into 2 subsections. 2 subsections, again it is divided. The first subsection, the specific weightage is given to 20 to 23%, right? And in the subsection 2, the specific weightage of 20 to 22% is given. If you see, just make an analysis where you can score good marks after preparing a little bit. Some of the topics you need to prepare, and you can score a very good marks. If you talk about the subsection 2, it is comprising of only 3 chapters, chapter 10, 11, and 12. And it has a weightage of 20 to 24 marks, right? In the charitable trust, the other special entities are also covered. That is the REITs, investment funds, securitization trusts are also covered. One or the other form of questions are continuously being asked from this chapter. Charitable trust, of course, the charitable trust is again a very, very important chapter. Please go through it. In the tax planning, tax avoidance, and tax evasion, GAR is specifically covered. Do go through the whatever be the examples. Illustrations are given in that GAR, and the test your knowledge questions are given in the GAR. Most of the time questions are being framed based on those illustrations, examples, and the test your knowledge questions. Then your taxation of digital transaction, if you talk about the virtual digital asset, is one of the important topic in this chapter. Okay, and then the subsection 1, It is comprising of chapter 1 to 9 and the compulsory question of 14 marks generally being covered from this subsection only, that is from chapter 9. It is computation of total income and tax liability of a company, or maybe it can be of a firm, or it can be of a cooperative society other than an individuals basically. So it is comprising of all the chapters, that is PGBP, capital gains, heads of income basically. If I talk about, remember the your income from house property and salaries are not specifically being covered in this paper. However, you are supposed to be aware of the basic knowledge of the income from house property as well as for the salaries specifically, right? That like the standard deductions, standard deduction हो गया, professional tax deductions हो गया, then your entertainment tax allowances हो गए. You should be aware of these kind of deductions. The house property again, interest on housing loan is one of the important adjustment which keep on asking, not in this subsection 1, but this they may be tested in case of your non-resident taxation, or in while computing the relief under section 91, they may test you there, right? Then PGBP is covered in detail. You have to go through the PGBP. Capital gains is one of the important. Separate questions can also be asked from this capital gains, since there are many amendments being taking place in this capital gains. So one or the other question definitely will be asked when this is an important one. Then other sources, they are mainly linking other sources provisions. Then your set off, clubbing, and deductions. Then your computation of total income. Go through these things in section 1, and ये आप कैसे practice करोगे, how you can practice this. आप देखोगे whatever be questions given in your study material, do practice all the questions. ठीक है. One important thing here is do not read the questions, try to please solve it. Try to solve it. Even you have to solve it, even though if you're revising also. Suppose मैंने आज I have picked up my assessment of various entities, ठीक है. आपने if Saransh is also available. Saransh, I have skipped to mention here that Saransh is already uploaded on our portal, which you can refer for the purpose of revising your provisions. ठीक है. वहां पे भी you can just make your own notes. Notes definitely help you in revising your concepts, because when you do prepare your own notes, it will be easy for you to revise your things, and it always being printed in your mind when you do and write the things, and you prepare, you try to apply this strategy to make your own notes. So it will help you to remember the things for a long period of time basically. सो सारांश की आप हेल्प ले लो. अगर मैं असेसमेंट ऑफ वेरियस एंटिटीज करती हूँ तो यू कैन टेक कि मैं आज एटलीस्ट 5 क्वेश्चंस आई विल डू. ठीक है. विदाउट सीइंग देयर आंसर्स, विदाउट सीइंग, व्हेन आप रिवाइज करने जा रहे हो, आप असेसमेंट ऑफ वेरियस एंटिटीज के क्वेश्चंस यू प्लीज डू इट. ठीक है. असेसमेंट ऑफ वेरियस एंटिटीज के वहां से करो, यू डू द सॉल्व द क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम चैप्टर इटसेल्फ, और यू कैन टेक द हेल्प ऑफ योर आरटीपीज. आरटीपीज में May 25 के आरटीपी में क्वेश्चंस आर कवर, September 25 की आरटीपी में क्वेश्चंस आर कवर. यू मार्क द क्वेश्चंस इन योर एमटीपी बुकलेट आल्सो while doing so. आप इतनी एडजस्टमेंट्स कर लोगे. मेन क्या है यहाँ पे in this, if I'm talking about, if you are supposed to calculate the total income tax liability, what is essential that you should know what are the adjustments, how these adjustments are being taking place. This is very essential, right? वो आपको प्रैक्टिस से ही आएगा. जब जितनी ज्यादा एडजस्टमेंट्स आप करोगे, आपने कुछ क्वेश्चंस देखे, ठीक है, यू हैव सॉल्व 5 क्वेश्चंस, उस 5 क्वेश्चंस में डेफिनेटली ऐसी होगी कुछ तो आप बहुत फैमिलियर हो गए. डेफिनेटली सम ऑफ द एडजस्टमेंट मस्ट बी देयर विच यू मस्ट बी फैमिलियर ऑफ, कि आपको बहुत फ्रिक्वेंटली आपने प्रैक्टिस की है तो आपको दिख जाएंगे. बट एवरी टाइम नोट इफ देयर इज समथिंग न्यू एडजस्टमेंट इज देयर, highlight those adjustments. They makes a difference basically. Highlight those adjustments because they are differently being asked. उनको highlight करो, उनका important लिखो कि these are the important adjustments. So आप when you are preparing or revising the things, then at that time you please refer again the highlighted portions. ठीक है. In this way you can take up this assessment of various entities. PGPP में भी certain questions are being given. PGBP में whatever the questions are given, you do. Capital gains में whatever questions you are do, you just mark it in whatever be the publication you are taking it. Now you just mark this is a capital gains का question, section 1 से section 2 से, you mark then and there. It will help you to revise the things again. ठीक है. Then assessment of charitable trust, if you talk about, there are many illustration given in your study material as well. आपकी स्टडी मटेरियल में आपको काफी एडजस्टमेंट्स मिल जाएंगी. देन यू कैन टेक द हेल्प ऑफ द मॉक टेस्ट पेपर्स. मॉक टेस्ट पेपर में चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट स्पेसिफिकली यू गो थ्रू एंड मार्क इट कि चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट में जनरली ये क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, इस तरीके से क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. दीज प्रोविजंस आर जनरली टेस्टेड. ठीक है. सो मोर एम्फेसिस ऑन दोज प्रोविजंस. आपको करना तो यू हैव टू थॉरली. ठीक है. आपको पढ़ना बहुत अच्छे से. आप जितनी बार रिवाइज करोगे उतनी बार आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग एनहांस होगी. ठीक है. सो द मोर यू स्टडी, मोर यू अंडरस्टैंड, मोर यू लर्न ऑल्सो. Then your text planning, these questions I already informed you, you can practice it from the study material itself. Next is your subsection 2. Subsection 2, if you talk about equal weightage, if you see there is a more or less equal weightage are being given to each sections or subsections. If you talk about, then your subsection 2, it is comprising of chapter from 13 to 20. Up 13 chapter basically is on TDS provisions. TDS provisions, if you see, every time one or the other question in the descriptive, and the provisions are can also be tested in the form of your case scenarios, in the form of your MCQs. They can be tested. Guidelines are being issued. आप देखो कि बहुत पढ़ने के बाद ट्रिक्स पे यू कैन जस्ट मार्क द important pointers in every provisions कि ये पॉइंटर है. अगर मैं आपको बात करूं 194M की, तो 194M कब लगेगा आपका? वहां पे आपको क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है? वहां पे आपकी टैक्स रेट इंपॉर्टेंट है, थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट्स इंपॉर्टेंट है, when the provisions is applicable, not applicable. अगर आपको not applicable याद है तो आप applicable तो है ही otherwise, right? From there you can learn. ठीक है. Now TDS में whatever be the circulars, notifications, case laws also. Case laws form में, or whatever case laws are given in the study material itself, and if something is given in the or judicial update also, that you can also refer it. Then your deductions कर लिया. Then your assessment procedure again very important. You do revise that assessment procedures में, and your tax audit chapters. Do practice the tax audit chapters. Whatever be the questions, case studies are given in the tax audit chapter. Do practice those case studies and do practice the test your knowledge questions. Apart from that, miscellaneous provisions again is a very important section. ठीक है. आपको करना सभी, but आपको more emphasis you can place upon on these specific chapters I'm telling you, so that you can score a very good marks and you have a confidence over the subject. Then your international taxation, again you can start your revision with this subsection because it has a huge weightage. 34 to 40 marks are not the small one, it has a huge weightage. And it is comprising of mainly 8 chapters, 21 to 28. And the initial chapters, non-resident taxation, transfer pricing provisions, DTA, or your advanced ruling are the provisions. यहाँ पे आपके application oriented questions are being asked. Or keep on saying every time, or घुमा फिरा के the relief under section 91 or 90 foreign tax credit relief, they may ask you if they have given your DTAs. So every time DTA का one or the other questions are concerned. यहाँ पे important होता है doubly taxed income calculate करना. ठीक है. And the tax rate of the foreign companies. Nowadays they are asking you the question in a manner that you are supposed to compute the foreign tax rates also. They will be given कि this is taxable and the basic exemption limit is provided in that country, and after that it is taxable at the following rate. No deduction is permissible there. So accordingly, whatever be the provisions, accordingly you have to compute the tax in that country and then divided by the total income arising in that country, then you will arrive at the foreign tax rates. Okay. And then if the income is given in your foreign currency, then your foreign currency rates are also important. Which rate you will take, which dates of foreign conversion rates will be considered, that is very essential. You please remember those dates. Mainly आप देखोगे जहाँ पे tricks can be given कि यहाँ पे आपको foreign currency is given, income is given in your foreign currency, then your conversion rates are given. Then which specified dates, basically the rate of foreign currency conversion rate on a specified date has to be considered for the purpose of converting that foreign income into the Indian income. So those rates are very important. DTA में आपका main जो important जो everything revolves around is the tax rates in the foreign country. Then your doubly taxed income. What would be your doubly taxed income? Doubly taxed income means कि on the same income you are paying the tax in both the countries, right? Base should be same. If some exemptions or deductions are available in India, then that amount has to be reduced, right? Whereas in foreign country, if some exemption or deduction is given, then that amount has to be reduced while computing your doubly taxed income, because relief you will be computing only on your doubly taxed income. This is very important. Then your NR taxation, if you talk about NR taxation, which section is very, very relevant is your section 115A. Is very essential. It specifies the specific rates which will be applicable on interest income, on the royalty income, fee for professional fees, services, and right on that incomes. Your specific rates are being given, then you will not be allowed to claim deductions again in respect of any of the expenditures. It is very essential. Then your, of course, the your rates of taxes, specific rate sections are being given for making taxable certain specified incomes. Those provisions basically chapter 12 and 12A. These are the two chapters of the Income Tax Act which provide distinct provisions for the non-residents as compared to the resident assessees. So it is very essential. You should go through. Tabular format is given in your study material. Do revise and do remember the rates given in that section. Then chapter 12 also specifies certain particular rates. Those are very important for you. Non-resident taxation हो गया आपका. Non-resident taxation में you should again go through your residential status, though you have already covered the residential status at your intermediate level, but at final it can be tested, So because determining the residential status is the first step to move forward to determine the scope of total income. Section 9 plays an important role in case of if you are a non-resident, because in case of resident, definitely global income are taxable, but in case of a non-resident, the income which are deemed to accrue arise in India or accrue arise in India or received in India or deemed to received in India are taxable, right? So it is very essential that you should know what is this section 9, because if we talk about section 195, see 195 talks about the TDS in case of any amount, any sum which is chargeable to tax in the hands of the non-resident payee, then only the provisions of TDS are being attracted. So that some charge, ऐसे नहीं आपको कुछ income दे दी, first you have to see whether this income is chargeable to tax in India or not, then only the TDS provisions will be attracted. If first and pay that income itself is not taxable in his hands, then there is no question of TDS on that income. So, and for determining the taxability, again you should know what is the section 9 basically. जो income received है, it will definitely taxable, which accrues or arise in India definitely would be taxable, but the act provides for the deeming fictions also. मतलब that income will be deemed to accrue or arise in India. Though you have not rendered it in services in India, but still it would be taxable. This is given in your, so subject to certain conditions. You have to definitely go and see what are the conditions in case of FTS, interest, royalty. It revolves around these specific incomes basically. Then income from business, having a business connection in India, then it will be taxable in India. There are certain exceptions are given. So आप देखोगे that initial sections which you have already dealt at your intermediate level are again being required to study those sections in detail. Basically, in detail, if I talk about in detail, you have to go indirect transfers. For example, the Vodafone case, there the Supreme Court decided that nothing is taxable, but they have changed the provision of the law to make it taxable those cases. So what is this indirect transfer? Directly, the company is not holding anything in India, but it is holding through some intermediary, and it is selling the shares or the interest in the intermediary, and that is again taxable in India if it is satisfying the conditions prescribed in section 9 itself. Section 9 is very, very important, right? Then determining the residential status, individual ka, that is very easy. Ki the main condition 182 days or more, then 60 days plus 365 days. And in case of your person of Indian citizen who comes on a visit, to India, then and its total income other than from foreign sources exceeds 15 lakh rupees, then this condition of 60 days will be substituted with this 120 days or more plus 365. तो वहां पे 365 भी देखना है आपको, not only because 182 days हो जाता था, then we are not going to see this 365 days conditions because in first में ही fall हो जाता था. But here you are supposed to see it. Here it is again 122 days and then 365 भी होना चाहिए in the last 4 preceding previous years, then that person is deemed to be a resident, but not ordinary resident, because in this explanation, it is being clearly given that a person who is becoming resident by virtue of this condition of 120 days plus 365 days, that person by default will be considered as your RNOR. This is important. Deemed resident provisions में क्या होता है? So आपका residential status poem, in case of a poem can be asked, because it was not tested for such a long time. They may frame some questions on poem of a company, how to determine a poem. Active business outside India test has to be seen to determine the poem of a company, because an Indian company is always a resident in India, but in case of foreign company, if they are satisfying the condition of active business test in India, then definitely they will become the resident in India. Even though this company becomes the resident in India, with the TDS provisions, the TDS provision still has to be applied as the way it is applicable for a non-resident. So ये कुछ tricky points होते हैं जो आप खुद से लिखोगे. आप when you do analysis, then only you will come to know कि these can be tested in your exams, right? And if you talk about, this is about your section wise weightages, I think we should move ahead. Manner of assessment, you all are knowing that it is 30% case scenario based questions and then 70% is your descriptive questions, right? In descriptive questions, you are supposed to, follow the steps. Whatever be the steps, you have to substantiate your questions with proper provisions, the applicable provisions of the act. Unless you are clearly writing the provisions of the act in your answer sheets, then only you will fetch the marks in descriptive questions. However, in case of 30% case scenario based question, you are not required to write anything, right? You are not required to give any reasonings, and no negative marks will be there for doing any wrong questions. One important thing, please note that you get an OMR sheet for filling this MCQ based paper. So please only fill that OMR sheet. Do not write the answers of MCQs in your descriptive question booklet. It is very, very essential, because we keep on, receiving the queries from the students that inadvertently they have, given the answers of the MCQs in the answer sheets. For that, it will not be evaluated. You have to give and solve, fill your answers of the case scenarios based MCQs only in the OMR sheet. Now, if you talk about how to prepare, see the preparation strategy for MCQs and descriptive would be same. How the manner of answering is different, that I have informed you. You have to specify, you have to be very specific and understand the requirement of the question while attempting the descriptive question. To the point answers only should be there in your answer sheets. Do not write a long answer. You are not supposed to write any long answers, but very specific and to the point of the requirement of the questions you have to mention in your answer sheet. In MCQs, of course, you need not to write anything, definitely, but some of the MCQs are such where you need to compute, you require to calculate certain amounts. For that purpose, do a proper calculations, and otherwise there are chances that you can skip some of the tricky points while arriving at the answers. So it is better to just make a rough note, space in your answer sheet for solving the MCQs which involve some computations or calculations. Okay, this one. Now, paper pattern, you all are aware that in 30 marks would be from MCQs, and mainly they are based on the case scenario. Some case scenario of fact must be given, and it would be followed by some case MCQs based on the case scenarios. So looking for the correct information in the fact is essential for you, because what happens when you are dealing with some independent questions, there is some little caselet is there, and based on that you have to solve the MCQ. But when we are talking about a case scenario and some 2-3 questions are become there, you have to be very extra cautious to see what are the important information which are being tested in the MCQs. Okay, don't just read the facts at one glance, your case scenario, then put more emphasis on the MCQs requirement. This is possible. Some information has been given in your case scenario, but based on that case scenario, it might be happen that some information are not being tested in the MCQs. So do not try just reading the case scenario. Do not frame your own questions. Do jump to your MCQs, read the requirement, and then look for the information which is to be considered while attempting that particular MCQ. Again, go through the relevant information while doing the attempting this MCQ. This is very essential. In your descriptive question, in total 6 questions will be there. First question will be your compulsory question. This is a trend, and out of the remaining 5 questions of 14 marks each, the students will have to attempt any 4 questions. Okay, so in total you have to attempt 5 questions. First is your compulsory question, and from the remaining 5 questions you can choose to attempt any 4 questions. Here and the internal choice will be given in one of the optional questions will be there. So here it is very essential, one important thing, do mention your question numbers. ठीक है, जो भी आप क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, डू मेंशन, स्टेट क्लियरली the answer relates to particular question, and do solve all the parts of the question in continuation. As any, for example, it's not essential that you start solving your descriptive question by first taking the compulsory question. It is not essential. You can pick and choose from 6th question also. If you feel ki nahi, I know the 4th question more well versed with the 4th question, like for example it is on tedious and you are aware of that provisions very easily, and you know, then you choose that question in first and you solve that question initially, right? But make sure if the 4th question have suppose 4 parts or the 3 parts, do solve all the parts in continuation. For example, if I have solved 4A, if you're taking 4C, then C, then A or B. You can shuffle in between the subparts of a particular question, but don't do कि 4 मैंने यहाँ पे किया, then you have jumped to the 5A, then 4C जाके आप 6th के बात कर रहे हो. Don't do in this manner, please, because the examiner will get confused and there are chances कि your evaluation will suffer due to that reason. Okay? So don't do it. Do solve in continuation. Suppose you are not knowing the answer of a particular subpart, then you can just leave a space, and when you finish with the other questions, then you can come again and think for it. And if you know, you can write something, at least the provision itself you can write. If you're remembering the provision, then you can write that provision itself. If you don't know, just give a cross to that blank space. This is very essential. Now, in descriptive, question number 1, basically, what is important? In question number 1, basically it asks you to compute the total income and tax liability. It can be based on your concession tax regime. आप सभी को पता होगा what is this concession tax regimes are there. 2 sections in case of a company, and in case of cooperative societies also the 115 BAD and all BAE. In case of companies, it is BAA and BAB, right? If you talk about BAB is limited to a particular companies only, domestic manufacturing companies only, and which has set up on or before this 31st October 24. And those companies have the opportunity to opt for the concession regime only in the year of incorporation or set off, right? So the company already being opted for 115 BAB will continue to claim that BAB. ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी this year is the 25, right? Your previous year is your previous year 24-25. अगर उसने, if the company has not opted for this BAB in the assessment year 24-25, then they will not be eligible to opt for 115 BAB in the assessment year 25-26, because they have to opt for the BAB only in the first year of their incorporation. Okay, so it is very essential. This part can be tested by way of some MCQ. It was tested in one of the MCQ in the last paper, question paper, this point basically. So then your BAA concession tax regime can be tested. You have to just go through whether they are asking you to compute the total income and tax liability in the most beneficial manner, or to optimize the tax liability. Then definitely you have to compute in the both manner. There is a how you can do it fast. That first you do solve your computation of total income by applying the normal provisions of the act. Then you take up that total income and make the adjustment to arrive at the concession tax regime total income, right? Whatever would be the adjustments are required, because certain deductions and exemptions are not available when the assessee company is opting for a concession tax regime, right? So there, yeah, you can take up that total income and take the base while computing the total income tax liability. One of the important thing, when the assessee, when the company or the assessee, other than firms are not eligible for any kind of concession regimes or the default tax regime. These are the exceptional assessees actually. They are not eligible for any these things, but the companies have this concession tax regime. In case of individuals also, the concession tax regime is now becoming the default tax regime. Means unless they are opting out, पहले क्या था, कंपनीज को ऑप्ट करना है, ठीक है, कंसेशन टैक्स रिजाइम के लिए. अगर वो कुछ नहीं कर रही है तो नॉर्मल प्रोविजन में पे करेंगे, देन यू हैव टू पे द टैक्स एज पर द नॉर्मल प्रोविजन. हाउएवर, in case of individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, AJP are the persons who have to, unless they are opting out of the default tax regime, they will be paying the tax under section 115 BAC. BAC, ठीक है. और BAC की टेस्टिंग आप देखो फुल फ्लेश क्वेश्चन में नहीं होगी आपके इंडिविजुअल की टेस्टिंग. इट कैन बी टेस्टेड इन योर नॉन रेजिडेंट टैक्सेशन प्रोविजंस. इट कैन बी टेस्टेड इन योर DT double A provisions, double taxation avoidance agreements provisions में it can be tested. So you should be aware of that default tax regime. It's very essential, ठीक है. And in case then, if the assessee is opting for the concession tax regime, then the MAT provisions are not applicable on those companies. ठीक है. If the company is opting for concession tax regime, then MAT provisions are not applicable. But when you are making the comparison and the book profits are given to you, then when the MAT liability is had in the normal tax provisions liability, the company is required to pay the tax as per the MAT provisions, right? Then you have to compute the MAT liability along with your concession tax regime, and accordingly you have to conclude your answers. Concluding your answer, is very important because it has a marking. ठीक है. Conclusion also carries marks. So conclude your answer. It may happen कि आपके पास 7 adjustments हैं, 7 में से one or the other adjustment you have done wrongly, but you will fetch marks for the other adjustment. So this is the plus point in the descriptive questions कि आपको पूरे marks नहीं कटे. Whole thing will not be deducted. Only the portion which have gone wrong will not get any mark, but for the portions which you have done correctly, you will fetch the marks. ठीक है. This is very, very important. Apart from this, one or the other question can be asked, that they can ask you to compute the capital gains, income chargeable under that capital gains, or your income from other sources. Clubbing provisions can be asked. In case of amalgamation, set of carry forward provisions can be tested. Some of the other questions are given your study mat also. Do solve those type of questions from this section. Important thing in BAA and BAB, do remember कि it is applicable. What are the rates? Basically, the rates are distinct from normal provisions. Normal provisions, what is the how you determine the tax rate of a company, because then you have to go and look for their turnover of the pre-financial year 22-23 for this assessment year 25-26, right? So you have to look for that information. What is the turnover of the company? Because if the turnover does not exceed your 400 crores, then company is liable to pay tax up to 25%. Then you have to compute this 25% with this concession tax regime if it is given as per the concession tax regime 115 BAA. BAA can be opted by a domestic company. Foreign companies are not allowed to opt for this concession tax regimes. And there is a specific, see, in case of normal provisions, surcharge is applicable depending on your total income. Okay? Keep in mind, because it happens when you compute certain things, you just skip to apply the surcharge, because you are in hurry and you just forget ki there the income exceeds your 1 crore, and then if the income exceeds 1 crore, then only surcharge is applicable. Suppose the income does not exceed your 1 crore, no surcharge is applicable as per the normal provisions. However, in case of concession regime, irrespective of your total income, surcharge is applicable at the rate 10%, right? Though your total income does not exceed 1 crore, your total income comprise only 20 lakhs, then also you have to apply the surcharge of 10%. Don't forget to apply this 10% rate. It is very, very essential for you. Okay, ये common mistakes, it may happens. Okay, now what are the deduction? How to remember these deductions? If you talk about the deductions, कैसे याद करनी है हमें, then in case of BAA or BAB, if you see, मेनली क्या होता है कंपनीज के केस में, सैलरी तो है नहीं, वहां पे कोई स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शंस वगैरह तो होंगी नहीं इन केस ऑफ अ कंपनी, और इन केस ऑफ कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी, हाउ टू रिमेंबर, पीजीबीपी की एग्जेम्पशंस हैं, डिडक्शंस है वहां पे मिलती हैं, उसके कुछ प्रोविजंस हैं विच आर नॉट अलाउ यू टू क्लेम सर्टेन डिडक्शन एग्जेम्पशन. देन आते हैं आपके चैप्टर 6 की डिडक्शंस. ठीक है, चैप्टर 6 ए एंड 10AA. 10AA, वन इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, while computing this 10AA, आप deduction will be allowable only from the gross total income. This is a manner of presentation that your 10AA की जो deduction है, this is allowable only while computing from the gross total income. ऐसा नहीं है आपने पीजीबीपी हेड से कराई, ऐसे जेड in unit की you have computed the income and you provided the deduction then and there. No, please don't do it. You will have to include whole income of this SZ unit in your total gross total income, and while computing your total income from that gross total income, you have to reduce this deduction under section 10AA, right? So 10AA का deduction आप compute करोगे. 10AA में what is important? The particular dates are also plays a relevant role in case of 10AA. की approval has to be got from till this date, and the entity also should commence its manufacturing activities from particular date 31st March 21 only. Then only that SEZ entity will be eligible for that exemption. Unless it is not being given, then now SEZ, there is a sunset clause being basically brought into this 10AA also, that SSE will not be eligible for this 10AA deduction. Now, अगर आप 21 से बात करो तो 5 years already been done. So every case में only 50% of the deduction is eligible now in case of 10AA. This is important. Then your 10AA का आपका कहाँ नहीं मिलता? In case of 115AA, you will not be eligible for this 10AA deduction. 35AD will not be available. In case of chapter 6 से क्या मिलेगा? आप वो याद कर लो. What will be eligible for deduction? You have to remember that provisions. For example, your ATM, you will be eligible for ATM. Most of the time, they test this ATM provisions. Then they test your ATJJ provisions. है ना, वो eligible होते हैं. But आपका other provision, except this ATM and ATJJ, no other deduction is available under chapter 6A. अब PGBP में बात करें, listing, you just list on कि क्या क्या scientific research expenditure will not be eligible. Then your additional depreciation, of course, you will not be eligible. 35AD you will not be eligible. Then these are the commonly tested provisions, you know, जो आपको नहीं मिलेंगे, याद कर लीजिए, remaining will be eligible. So in that way you can remember this 115 BAA deductions and exemptions which are not being allowable. This is about your BA and BAD provisions. The rates are very, very important. Please do remember this rate, that all income is taxable at the rate 22% here, and except covered under chapter 12. Chapter 12 में means आपकी जो LTCG 112 है, 112A है, STCG है 111A. Now यहाँ पे भी आपकी दो rates लगती है. STCG आपका if taking place after 20 your 23/7/24, then it is your 20%, right? उसके बाद अगर taking place तो 20% rate लग रहा है. ठीक है, other LTCG पे 12.5% rate is applicable. So you have to see and look for the information, what information is given. It can be tested. होता है। अभी कंपनी का है, कुछ लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स दे दिया। कंपनी के केस में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, कि आपको पता है ग्रैंडफादरिंग क्या किया, सडनली गवर्नमेंट कम आउट विद द अमेंडमेंट्स बाय विच वी विल नॉट बी अलाउड टू टेक द बेनिफिट ऑफ इंडेक्सेशन। ठीक है, इंडेक्सेशन विल नॉट बी अलाउेबल from the particular rate if you are transferring the capital asset in after this 23/7. Then consequentially what they have done, that they have reduced the rate, मतलब आपने, they reduce the rate but taking the benefit of indexation from you, and it is applicable to all the assessees except in case of individuals and HUF. It is very essential, do remember, in case of individual and HUF who are resident in India, make a point, who are resident in India, have given the benefit. अब उन्होंने benefit, where the government has given the benefit, where the provisions are being, where the amendments are being made. आपने देखा होगा, they have not made the amendment in the sections which pertains to capital gains. They made the amendment in section 112. 112 specify the rates on long term capital gains. There they have made the amendment. ठीक है, वहां पे what they have done, they have given this benefit to individual or HUF resident in India who have acquired the land or building or both before this 23/7, ठीक है, on or before this 23/7, but transferred thereafter, have the option to check whichever is beneficial. It is beneficial at the rate of 20% applying the indexation benefit, or is it beneficial applying this 12.5% without indexation. ठीक है, they have done this. अब ये benefit आप compare करोगे, we will compare and pay the tax as per the beneficial regime. What has its impact? Just note it. देखो what impact it has when they made the amendment in section 112. क्या हुआ यहाँ पे, आपने टोटल इनकम टैक्स लायबिलिटी कंप्यूट की, एंड यू नो दैट आप इंडेक्सेशन से करते हो, योर कैपिटल गेन्स आर लेस. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मेरा कैपिटल गेन्स आ रहा है 10 lakhs का, इफ आई एम डूइंग एट बाय अप्लाइंग द इंडेक्सेशन बेनिफिट, और जब विदाउट इंडेक्सेशन कर दो, डेफिनेटली विदाउट इंडेक्सेशन कैपिटल गेन्स विल बी हायर, हो गई हायर. वहां पे आपका कैपिटल गेन्स आ रहा है 20 lakhs का. अब जब आपने वो 20 लाख की इनकम करी, आपकी इनकम 50 लाख से ज्यादा होगी, आपकी कैपिटल गेन्स आर हायर, सो योर total income definitely will be higher when you are computing the capital gains without indexation benefit. In that case your surcharge will be applicable. ठीक है, सरचार्ज के प्रोविजंस आपके ऊपर अप्लाई होंगे, इवन दो आप टैक्स लायबिलिटी आपकी विद इंडेक्सेशन बेनिफिट कम आ रही है, बट यू हैव टू पे द सरचार्ज ऑल्सो ऑन दैट. ठीक है, गवर्नमेंट गिविंग द बेनिफिट बट सब्जेक्ट टू सर्टेन कंडीशंस. तो दिस इज द tricky areas you will understand when you analyze this, applying in the practical scenarios. For example, मैं देती हूँ, मेरे घर मेरे फादर ही सेल करते हैं कुछ चीज, अब मैंने प्रोविजंस कंप्यूट कर लिए, मैंने टैक्स लायबिलिटी के टाइम पे आपको बेनिफिट दिया है, आपको मैंने टोटल इनकम के टाइम पे हैव नॉट गिवन यू द बेनिफिट, आपको टोटल इनकम विदाउट इंडेक्सेशन ओनली, एंड दैट टू ओनली टू इंडिविजुअल और HUF रेजिडेंट इन इंडिया. तो कंपनी के केस में ये बेनिफिट नहीं है. इफ कंपनी ने कोई लैंड परचेज किया पहले और बाद में ट्रांसफर करे 23/7 के बाद में, तो आपको ये बेनिफिट नहीं है, आपको 12.5% से ही यू हैव टू पे द टैक्स. ठीक है, विदाउट एनी इंडेक्सेशन बेनिफिट करना ही पड़ेगा आपको. ऊपर का कैपिटल गेन्स भी वैसे करना है और नीचे टैक्स लायबिलिटी डिटरमाइन करते भी यू हैव टू कंप्यूट इन दिस मैनर. बट आप इंडिविजुअल और HUF का क्वेश्चन सपोज आ जाता है, एट दैट टाइम while computing a total income, you have to compute the capital gains without indexation benefit if transfer takes place of the capital asset being land or building long term, not short term, long term asset है, then you have to compute without indexation. ठीक है, but when you are determining the tax liability, at that time you make a comparison, whichever is beneficial you will take that benefit and pay the tax accordingly. This is important aspect, very important aspect. ठीक है, ये बहुत जरूरी है. सो यहाँ पे अगर आपको क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे देते हैं 112A का some income, LTCG is given 112 में 1.25 lakh limit. It is again, I'm telling you, earlier 1 lakh basic that exemption was providing. Again, they have provided the exemption only while computing a tax liability, not while computing a long-term capital gains. ये mistake commonly बच्चे कर देते हैं कि what they do, they provide that basic exemption limit of 1 lakh in respect of long-term cap. Again, I'm telling you, taking place before this 23/7. But here again, it's just important point. I'm telling you, अगर आपका before भी होता है तो भी 1.25 lakh की exemption है. ठीक है, don't forget it. Don't forget it. The exemption of 1.25 lakh, which is available against the long-term capital gains taxable under section 112A, is 1.25 lakh, which is available throughout the year. Throughout the year, irrespective आपने कभी भी transfer किया, but tax rate will be same. That is 12.5% or 10%. You have to see when the transfer is taking place. This is important aspect. ठीक है, STCG, again you have to look for the information when the transfer is taking place, because if it is 111 then it was taxable at the rate of 15% earlier, now it is 20%. These are the important points. आप करोगे practice तभी आएगी, more and more practice. अपने खुद के notes, you make the notes yourself and do practice in this manner. Now if we talk about your section 1 का subsection 2, that I have already discussed, charitable trust है, more or less independent issues are being asked in this your question paper, and full-fledged question अगर आएगा then it is from 115 TD, accredited income में आएगा. It can be asked because last time भी नहीं आया था. It may test you this 115 TD. और इसमें corpus donations, basically corpus donations में you are supposed to invest in 11.5 mode. Unless you have invested, you will not get the exemption. It will be not be include you have to include in your total income, right? Unless you have invested in 11.5 mode. Corpus donations may, if you have utilized the corpus donations for the purpose of the trust, then it will not be considered as your application of income unless you reinvested in that mode. ठीक है, so corpus donations में है. Anonymous donations के लिए again other section 115 BBD I think is there. Anonymous donations के लिए then registration procedure is there कि the validity period they may test you कि if, because everyone has to now registered in the new regime, new this new forms are there that their registration is valid for a particular period only, and they have to make an application in this 12AB. So there is a proper registration procedure there, and now both the regimes are being merged from 1st October. But still this is applicable. So in the table, if you see and go through the study material, one of the table is given where we have given a comparison table specifying the provisos, because 1023 CMA there are 22 or 23 provisos are there, and they are being, explanations are again there, so they are being compared with this 12 section 1112 provisions. There are also many explanations are there, many provisos are there. You need not to remember those provisos, what proviso it is, first proviso, second proviso, explanation 6, explanation 2, explanation 1. Please do not try to remember, just try to remember the provision, what the provision says to you. And do not mention in your answers if you don't remember the explanation numbers, right? And just specify the section 11 specifies this, and accordingly you answer the question. Now read is very important. Do go through. It's an easy concept basically. They given the pass through status to the REITs, that income is taxable in the hands of the unit holders. Certain incomes, like your three income, that is your dividend, interest, है ना, rental income हो गया आपका. These incomes are passed through to the unit holders, right? And other incomes are taxable in the hands of REITs itself. ठीक है, वो आप याद कर लो. Other than that, any distribution is there, that is also again taxable in the hands of this unit holders they have given. So वो आप अच्छे से याद कर लो. TDS rates are distinct. क्या TDS rate लगेगा, because that is passed through to the unit holders that are being received from the SPV, special purpose vehicle, and they are being not taxable in the hands of REITs, but they are taxable in the hands of unit holders. And at what unit holders के hands पे what kind of income it is taxable in the same manner as it is taxable in the hands of the REIT. So accordingly, the rates has to be determined. The TDS rates, you have to remember the TDS rates. Investment funds में again, investment funds में pass through status is there. ठीक है, but PGBP income के लिए नहीं है, that is not there. So it would be taxable in the hands of investment fund itself. You just go through. It's an easy concept, and most of the time questions are being asked in the form of case scenarios, or it may ask in the form of your this descriptive question. We have come out with the MTP. If time permits, we will be taking one or the two case scenarios from the MTP, just brushing up the section-wise weightages में what type of questions are being asked. Points to remember. What are the important points you have to remember? That taxability provisions of the charitable trust are distinct from the normal provisions, though section 40A3 is applicable, mutatis mutandis, your TDS provisions 40A 1A is applicable, right? So ये कुछ provisions है mutatis mutandis लगते हैं, means आपने TDS, the trust has not deducted the TDS, then the 30% of the expenditure is not allowable as your application of income, right? If the trust is making the payment in cash exceeding 10,000, then that will not be considered application of income. However, certain things, even the capital expenditure they allow as their application of income, subject to certain conditions कि आपका जो capital expenditure है, it should not be out of your corpus donations, it should not be out of your borrowings. Borrowings may is permissible if you are making the repayment. ठीक है, if you are making the repayment of that amount, then you will be considered as your application of income. However, likewise, if you are reinvesting the corpus donations in the form specified in the manner specified under section 11.5, then you will be eligible for your deduction. Now the trust are allowed to claim the expenditure as application of income only on actual payment. Again, important concept, only on actual payment. For example, the trust has incurred the expenditure in the previous year 23-24. Now the trust is making the payment for that expenditure. It will be eligible as deduction this year. ठीक है? Certain expenditure trust has incurred, however the payment are not made, then that expenditure will not be allowed as deduction. So these are the specific provisions. Now, आपका BBI, very important provisions, that is specified incomes. For example, the trust is using the trust income, because trusts are basically created for the purpose of benefiting the public, basically for particular charitable purposes के लिए, or for the public general public utility, for that purpose. So accordingly, trusts are supposed to apply the donations, the voluntary contributions for that specific purposes. If the trust are utilizing that sum for the purpose of a trustee, that will not be allowed as application in one hand, but that amount will be considered as specified income and would be taxed at a specific rate of 30%. 30%, but directly it will be taxable once you are not allowed to claim as your application of income, but it will be taxable at 30%. So what are the cases where what are the circumstances where the income will, or the expenditure done by the trust will be considered as your specified income? Those cases have to be remembered. Then section 1310 is there, where actual payment पे ही आपको मिलेगा. Your 1310 is again a very, very important provisions, where certain capital expenditure is not allowed. Only revenue expenditure is allowed. If you are doing this expenditure for the purpose of a trust, that would not be allowed. You are not, certain conditions are there. Likewise, you have not maintained the books of accounts or get done your audited, then certain you will not be take the benefit of this 1112. Your income will be computed in the manner as specific as per the normal provisions of the act. It is very important. Now we are talking about 115 TD. TD में आप देखोगे 30% के अलावा your rate is applicable at 34.944%. That is 30% plus your 12% plus your 4%, right? So इस पे टैक्सेबल होगा व्हेन यू आर कंप्यूटिंग एक्रेडिटेड इनकम. ये बहुत अच्छे से याद रखना है आपको. Then your another Chapters are chapter 13 to 20. Deductions or collections, I already informed you. Certain questions can be asked. Basically, they ask you in the form of application-oriented questions or case scenario-based questions can also be tested from these chapters. Basically, आप देखोगे तो full-fledged questions तो कोई आएगा नहीं. या तो some question based on some case laws होगा, या फिर some question will be based on some small independent case scenario, or from this descriptive question होगा तो independently application oriented questions होंगे, or in the form of a case scenario it can be asked from this chapter. What is the last one is your non-resident taxation. We have already discussed what type of questions are being covered from this section 3 international taxation. If you talk about points to remember, this is very important. Now only Prashant has joined. Samay Nanthan also joined. I think I should allow them to also speak. Anything which you would like to ask till now, Prashant or Samay Nanthan? I would like to ask you, see, the tax rate given in the DTA are inclusive of surcharge and cess. Okay? Inclusive of surcharge and cess means if the tax rate, for example, on your FTS is provided or royalty is provided at the rate of 10%. Okay? Or here the rate is not 20%, of course 20%. On that also, if the same 20% is provided in both the cases, okay, 20% is provided in both the cases in your what we say, yeah, you can, I can unmute yourself. Yes. Technical team, can you just unmute? Let me do, Prashant. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have one or two questions.
Hmm.
One is regarding GAR.
Hmm.
There is a judgment right now of the one High Court Telangana or this High Court in
Hmm.
which they have stated that GAR is applicable even if the SAR is there in respect of international transactions.
Okay.
So, so what is the, I mean, position? Because this is the only complexity in these questions, whether SAR GAR will be applicable when SAR is there or not. So
Even the
this,
stability also clarifies the same thing. Na? If SAR is there, then also GAR can be implemented. See, because GAR is, मुझे जो लगता है, GAR provisions are adopted on a very specific cases. मतलब huge tax liability of 3 crore is implemented, and for implementing the GAR, some collegium also has to be framed. तो आपका some huge transaction are taking place. SAR है, of course SAR is applicable, but SAR cannot cater all the things. In that cases, GAR can also be implemented. आप
but
देखो इंटरनेशनल
but
ट्रांजैक्शंस में ह्यूज ट्रांजैक्शंस इन्वॉल्वड.
in the answers, it is given that since SAR is applicable, then GAR will not be applicable.
But somehow आप देखोगे in questions में भी if you talk about, then I think at the end में लिखा है CBDT also clarifies in this way कि GAR this wherever SAR is applicable, GAR may also apply. GAR may
Ma'am,
also apply.
they have given that since SAR is a specific provision, it will override GAR provisions.
एक
General law.
एक
So
मिनट अपनी बुक में ही देखती हूँ, आपको बताती हूँ because ये देखो देखो गार नीड नीड वैसे होना नहीं चाहिए, सार ऑलरेडी उन्होंने टैकल कर लिया, बट सीबीडीटी इटसेल्फ इन सीबीडीटी सर्कुलर नंबर 7 2017 अपनी बुक में ही लिखा है हमने, गार एंड सार कैन को एग्जिस्ट. CPT itself clarified, and we are mentioning as a डिस्क्लेमर कह सकते हैं कि ऐसा नहीं है कि आपका गार लग गया तो मतलब आपका सार लग गया तो गार नहीं लगेगा. सो दैट डिस्क्लेमर CPT itself is giving basically by this circular. तो ये same line you also have to mention in your answers. अगर सार है आप that line at the end you conclude your answer by mentioning this reference. ठीक है, आप देखोगे पेज नंबर 11.38 पे इट इज क्लियरली मेंशन. इवन अदर केसेस में भी आपका जहां सार और गार के क्वेश्चंस हैं, दैट सीबीडीटी का सर्कुलर वी आर मेंशनिंग गार एंड सार कैन को एग्जिस्ट.
okay, ma'am.
So tell me Prashant, have you done your MTP
Not right now, ma'am. I'm planning to do it on. I mean, give it in test conditions.
test conditions? Okay, so we talk now the case scenarios of that MTP. Have a discussion. take some of the case scenarios from the MTP. Of course, from section 2, that is procedural law, miscellaneous provisions, is an interesting provisions. You find it interesting when you apply in the practical conditions. आप थोड़ा examples लेके अपने आप से you try to take the examples, then you find it really interesting, these provisions, because they have the practical relevance. Even I can say the chartered accountancy curriculum is purely on practical aspects, purely on the practical aspects. So you find it interesting and you easy to retain it also when you link the things in a practical scenarios. तो whenever you are studying, आप कोई भी प्रोविजन पढ़ रहे हो उसको अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए व्हाट यू कैन डू, जस्ट ट्राई टू मेक एन एग्जांपल, स्मॉल स्मॉल बेसिक बेसिक एग्जांपल्स, दैट विल हेल्प यू टू अंडरस्टैंड द प्रोविजन एक तो बहुत अच्छे से, और टू मेमोराइज ऑल्सो दैट प्रोविजन, आपको याद भी हो जाएगा उसी टाइम पे. तो टुडे आई हैव प्लान्ड कि सिंस वी हैव सम टाइम, तो आई हैव प्लान्ड कि वी कैन टेक अप the your this MTP booklet, we can take up MTP. Just a minute. Just a minute. Let's take you. What you can do, you can practice the model test paper also in the examination condition. That's what I have already asked you. Ki in the model test papers, 6 mock test papers, basically 6 model test papers are given in your this booklet. So that also you can solve, or while doing your सेक्शन वाइज प्रिपरेशन, आई मस्ट से कि आप थोड़ा सा ना सेक्शन वाइज भी कर सकते हो कि मेरा एक मोटा मोटा इंटरनेट टैक्सेशन कवर हो चुका है आज की डेट में, आप मेरे से किसी भी फॉर्म के क्वेश्चंस यू कैन आस्क फ्रॉम दैट सेक्शन, यू कैन सॉल्व इट. सो आप उस बेसिस पे भी आप एक बार प्रैक्टिस कर लो, उसके बाद उसको कैटेगराइज कर लो अपनी एमटीपी बुकलेट के क्वेश्चंस को भी इन द सेम वे, कि अगर मैं फिर से रिवाइज करने जा रहा हूँ मेरा सेक्शन 3 या सेक्शन 2, तो मैं ये क्वेश्चंस फिर से देख के जाऊं इन क्वेश्चंस में, इन द सेम क्वेश्चंस, व्हाट आर द important areas which I should look for again. So that you can do. So is my screen visible? I want to take this here also. Yes. Yes. Let's do some of the case scenarios. There are 3 case scenarios basically, and each case scenario carrying 8 marks. So it is comprised, each case scenario is comprising 4 MCQs. It may happen during your exam. Some of the case scenario may involve 3 questions, or some may involve 4 questions, or some may involve 5 questions. So in overall, there will be 15 MCQs in overall, because each MCQ will carry 2 marks. All MCQs will be application oriented only. सो नॉलेज बेस्ड टेस्टिंग नहीं होगी. जो आपकी नॉलेज बेस्ड क्वेश्चन की टेस्टिंग है, दैट इज इन योर बेसिकली लास्ट ऑफ द 4 चैप्टर्स इन योर मॉड्यूल 4. मॉड्यूल 4 के जो लास्ट 4 चैप्टर्स हैं, वन और द अदर क्वेश्चंस ऑफ 6 मार्क्स आर आस्क्ड फ्रॉम दैट ओनली. आपको वो क्वेश्चंस ना वहीं से पूछे जाते हैं, ठीक है, वहां से. तो आपको जो एमसीक्यू सेक्शन है, दैट वुड कंप्राइज ऑफ योर ओनली एप्लीकेशन ओरिएंटेड क्वेश्चंस. तो आपको 3 तो केस सिनेरियो होंगे, ठीक है. One case scenario, each equally 4 questions, or one can be 5, one can be 3, one can be 6. In that form, they can be asked. Then in this case scenario, this is very general case scenario. All of you have done it. It's nothing great in this case scenario. It's very general, but it will just brush up your the provision. जब आप when you are practicing, ठीक है, आप केस सिनेरियो प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो, तो डोंट रेस्ट्रिक्ट योरसेल्फ टू दैट पर्टिकुलर. आप एमटीपी कर रहे हो, ठीक है, एग्जामिनेशन कंडीशन में कर रहे हो तो आप रेस्ट्रिक्ट करो, बिकॉज यू हैव टू चेक योर टाइम मैनेजमेंट ऑल्सो, you have to check your preparedness also, and how you present your answers. Presentation matters a lot. Basically, presentation matters a lot. Please follow the presentation given in your suggested answers, right? Given in your MTP booklet also. And in MTP आप देखोगे थोड़ा थोड़ा डिटेल्ड हो सकता है, बट आप टू द पॉइंट लिखिए, आप उसको अंडरलाइन करिए. वो आपका थोड़ा डिटेलिंग में हम इसलिए कवर करना पड़ता है बिकॉज वी आर टीचिंग यू टू मेक अवेयर ऑफ कि किस तरीके से आपको ये वाला लाइन में तो एटलीस्ट कुछ लाइंस तो याद हो, ठीक है। वी कैन नॉट मेक इट क्रिस्प, अगर अभी क्रिस्प किया तो फिर आप कैसे उसको वहां पे तो और ज्यादा क्रिस्प हो जाएगा जाके। तो हमें वी हैव टू गिव इन लिटिल बिट डिटेल, बट यू कैन एनालाइज कि व्हाट एग्जैक्टली आर रिक्वायर्ड टू बी आंसर इन योर आंसर शीट्स, ठीक है। अब जब आप केस सिनेरियो बुकलेट कर रहे हो, ठीक है, मैंने कहा आप केस सिनेरियो बुकलेट कर रहे हो, अगर मैंने एक केस सिनेरियो, इफ आई एम पिक अप एंड चूजिंग वन ऑफ द केस सिनेरियो, देन व्हाट यू कैन डू, कौन कौन से प्रोविजंस आए इसमें, उन प्रोविजंस को डू गो थ्रू दोज प्रोविजंस अगेन, एक बार फिर से कर लो। आपने अगर उसका कुछ टेबल या डायग्राम बना रखा है तो वो डायग्राम को दोबारा से रिवाइज कर लो, क्योंकि हो सकता है क्वेश्चन में भी आज ऑन द सेम प्रोविजन बट टेस्टिंग द अदर एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ द प्रोविजन, ये वाले एस्पेक्ट्स ना हो। तो आप कहीं ना कहीं, मैंने अगर मैं आपको यहाँ पे प्रोविजन लेती हूँ, यहाँ पे मेरा इन्वॉल्व है 269 एस एस इसमें है, 269 टी इसमें है, और या 269 एस टी इसमें है। These three provisions की टेस्टिंग है, और इसकी related penalty provisions are also discussed, because this penalty somewhere are related to these provisions only. 271 D, 271 E, 271 D B, right? So these provisions, penalty provisions are simultaneously given your study material. आप देखोगे penalties को link किया गया है, all the more जहां पे भी we are discussing the provisions to curb the unethical aspects or to make the things more legitimate, the penal prosecutions are being placed into the Income Tax Act to curb those practices. अब मैंने यहाँ पे इफ आई एम डन विद माई 269 SS, 269 T, 269 ST, तो डू गो थ्रू, जरूरी नहीं है यहाँ पे मैंने आपको स्पेसिफाइड सम वाली टेस्टिंग की हो, it may be possible question can be asked on the specified sum, that is in respect of your immovable properties, you are taking the amount or taking the advance for immovable property even though the transactions are not taking place, the transfer are not taking place, that also can be tested. The bank, certain banking companies are not subject to this 269 SS this thing. So what are the exclusions given in this 269 SS that you can go through? What are the higher limits apart from this 20,000 limit? There are a limit of 2 lakh is also applicable. In what circumstances that limit is applicable, that you go through it again, ठीक है। आप इस तरीके से you just go through इस तरीके similar provisions, similar case scenario you will find it on case scenario booklet also. So here let me just read you. I want you to answer first, then definitely I will explain also. Here, one of the consulting private limited is a professional firm providing consultancy and business advisory services. It offers wide variety of solutions, including financial management and blah, blah, blah. Then during the financial year, what happened? It rendered various professional service earning gross receipts of totaling 90 crore. Some figure is given. Don't bother. Abhi, हम questions देखेंगे. Then you think about whether this has some relevance. Then this was the company's first year of operation. It believes that certain statutory compliance may not have been fully adhered. Okay. Then additionally, what happens during the business, due to business exigencies, the company received various loans in cash. Loans in cash. 269 SS accordingly, the persons are not supposed to accept, take any loan in the mode other than the specified modes. Take account pay check, account pay draft, or the other specified modes that are on mention key, NEFT you have to do, UPI you have to do, the other than the specified take modes. If the person has taken in cash, how much that he has taken the company has received loan from Mr. Santosh on 19th June 24. Then again it has availed a loan of 27,000 from Mr. Kamal on 18th July. Then 16,000 from Mr. Ajay. So these three loans. Remember these three loans the company has taken? Okay? Various different dates. Now, on one day they have taken the 16,000 loan also. Here they have taken 27,000. Here they have taken 28 lakhs. Now, the further Integra Consulting privately made the following loan repayment. Now, what they have done? They have made the repayments also. How much they have repaid now? From Santosh only. They have repaid to Santosh 15,000 on 15th July. Remember those dates. Then 2,50,000 to Mr. Santosh on 15th August. Same person, they are making the repayments. One through cash, another through account pay check, then RTGS, then cross check. Cross check. Remember this cross check. On different dates. Then what other information is given? This consulting private limited has also received an amount of 2 lakh. They have received some amount of 2 lakh for services rendered to Mr. Soham through bearer check. Bearer check. Also, he is the company. It should be it only received cash of rupees 90,000 for services rendered to Mr. Manoj. Furthermore, does not know, the company is not aware whether the provisions of tax audit are applicable on the company or not. Now, let's read the questions, because do not analyze the case scenario itself. Let's read the question, what is the exact requirement of the question. What they're asking you, the first question is asking you, you have to compute, you have to determine what is the amount of penalty that would be leviable for availing loan in cash. क्या लगेगी? Now the question is very clear. Should I show you the figure? Let me check here also. Prashant and the person. Yeah, okay. I'm just showing it. You just determine. Now you have no key which provisions are attracted. You have just go and check the figures. Yes, please. Know it? You just tell me what penalty will be leviable. Forget about the sections. Just you tell me what penalty is leviable in respect of loan taken in cash. Yes, I got the answer. 28 lakh thousand. Is it right? Again, revise. Just I'm giving you another 1 minute. 28, 27. Now, I think I should just take you through that provision itself. ठीक है, एक बार हम provision देख ही लेते हैं फिर से, है ना? Miscellaneous provision का. I have to keep on checking either the BEAR Act, मतलब आप प्रोफेशनल बन जाते हो तो या तो आप BEAR Act से पढ़ते हो, या फिर मैं अपना स्टडी मटेरियल आई डू रेफर. अगर आपने अपने खुद के नोट्स बनाए, डू रेफर दोस नोट्स. ठीक है. अभी लेट्स सी व्हाट इज दिस 269 SS says. This says, if you go and read this 269 SS, that no person shall take. Oh, this pen is not working here. I don't know. You don't. So यहाँ पे 269 SS provides that no person shall take or accept any loan or deposit or specified sum from any person except by account pay check, account pay draft, or by a clearing system. Here the amount क्या देखना है? If the amount of such loan, deposit or specified sum or aggregate amounts of such loan. Aggregate amount of such loan. ठीक है? Or on the date of taking or accepting such loan or deposit, or just a minute. So aggregate amount from a person. It's saying that no person shall accept from any other person. यहाँ पे what is the figure? 20,000 or more is given, right? You are right. And what is this? Here they are talking about these two different persons. ठीक है? अगर ये person, you are right. Both of your answers are very correct. That the amount of 28,27,000 is the penalty also, because it cannot, take the loan or advance from a person exceeding 20,000. The person Ajay is a different party, therefore this would not be included, right? Here the 28,27,000 in aggregate. Agar suppose in the same scenario, if I say कि it has received, यहाँ से 28, if they have received 18,000 from here, ठीक है, and then another loan they are receiving, अभी आपने इसमें कर दिया, another loan they are receiving of rupee suppose 4,000 from Mr. Santosh. Mr. Santosh चाहिए. Here you will have to take this all 22,000. ठीक है, aggregate में you have to take. इसमें से अगर सपोज रिपेमेंट हो जाता, सपोज यहाँ से 18,000 में से आपका रिपेमेंट हो जाता 6,000 का, देन व्हाट यू विल डू? मिस्टर संतोष के केस में सपोज 18,000 और 4,000 की फिगर है, you have taken the loan of 18,000 and 4,000, and this out of this 18,000, company that private limited has repaid that amount of rupees, suppose 10,000 in between. 10,000 agar repay ho jata, then what you will do? How much will be taxable? It will be applicable for rupee 20 even though repayment has taken place. Okay, very easy question. And what is the section relevant here? Because section are also given here. You have to remember this section because here they are testing a section also. Which section is relevant here? 271E, D, E or D? Which section? E or D? Which section is applicable? 271D. Right. Very good. Then let's take the another question. What is the amount of penalty leviable on repayment of loan to Mr. Santosh? Repayment के time पे what penalty will be leviable? These are the figures. It made a repayment to Mr. Santosh. It made a repayment to Mr. Santosh. Yes. Who has given this answer? Okay. Yes. Good. So यहाँ पे even though यहाँ पे 15,000 is only repaid. देखा आपने यहाँ पे सिर्फ 15,000 का रिपेमेंट किया है इसने, बट बाय कैश. ठीक है, अनदर रिपेमेंट ही हैज मेड बाय 12,000 ओनली, राइट, थ्रू क्रॉस चेक. अब यहाँ पे दो द अमाउंट ऑफ रिपेमेंट इज लेस देन 20,000, बट स्टिल the provisions will get attracted because the amount of loan taken, ठीक है, by amount of loan given to him on this on the date of payment is to more exceeding 20,000. There the amount of repayment is not making any relevance, but the amount of loan taken by the person is making a difference. ठीक है, so that person, that amount of 20,000 has to be checked with respect of their loan or advance or the specified sum given by that entity, by that person. That is relevant. So accordingly, both 15,000 and 12,000 will get attracted. And what is the relevant provision then? What is the relevant provision here? 271E D. Yes, account pay, RTGS, UPI, online payments. Yeah, 271E. Very good. So you are thorough with this. थोड़ा tricky बन सकता था. It's very easy questions, of course. They are not that difficult, but tricks can be implemented. जहाँ पे आपको aggregate में you have to check. You have to check repayment के time पे. Of course, repayment के time पे the repaid amount of that threshold limit of 20,000 is not applicable for the repaid amount. This is applicable for the loan amount which is being taken. And that वो आप किसी भी मोड में आपने एक्सेप्ट किया हो, whether you are accepting in any mode the loan or repayment, वो आपका 269 SS डील करता है, बट रीपेमेंट के टाइम पे आपका 269 T डील करता है. ओके, सो दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट. देन नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, has Integra Consulting Private Limited violated any provision of the Income Tax Act while receiving payment from Mr. Soham and Mr. Manoj? If yes, what is the amount of penalty which this company is liable to pay? किसको पे कर रही है? तो सोहम एंड मनोज की. लेट्स गो टू द फैक्ट्स बेसिकली यहाँ पे, है ना. ये दीज आर द फैक्ट्स रिलेवेंट. इट इज मेकिंग receiving the amount of 2 lakh for services rendered to Mr. Soham through bearer check. $2,90,000. Prashant, which section is applicable here? You have to remember because certain sections now has its own relevance. वो आप बिना section को remember करें, it would be difficult to retain the provision. तो यहाँ पे sections have a relevance. If 2 lakh bearer check is not allowed, rupee 90,000 allowed since it is less than 2 lakh. Okay, यहाँ पे प्रोविजन क्या अट्रैक्ट होगा, आप मुझे बताइए. यस, एंड टू पेनल्टी प्रोविजन से हुआ. उसके बाद में वो किस लिए लगेगा, किस कॉन्ट्रवेंशन के लिए लग रहा है पेनल्टी प्रोविजंस? विच कॉन्ट्रवेंशंस, विच सेक्शन की कॉन्ट्रवेंशन के लिए दिस डीए इज एप्लीकेबल? ये 271 DA is applicable, very rightly said. It is this penalty provision is applicable in respect of the contravention of which section? Yes, 269 ST. Actually, 269 ST says कि no person can receive. 269 ST, if you go, no person receive an amount of 2 lakh or more except by account pay check, account pay bank draft, or use of electronic clearing system through bank account in aggregate from such person a day, in a day. एक person से एक दिन में, ठीक है, या in respect of a single transaction from a person. अगर different dates में आप receive कर रहे हो तो it is permissible, but from a person in a day it has a relevance. in a day देखना है आपको. यहाँ पे तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. only 2 lakh is received, 2 lakh or more पे it will get attracted, and in respect of transaction relating to one event or occasion from a person. एक event के लिए आपको मिला, एक event के लिए मिला, एक occasion के लिए मिला, then you have to check it. सो यहाँ पे कॉन्ट्रावेंशन 269 ST की हुई. यहाँ पे 2 लाख और मोर के लिए, 2 लाख और मोर के लिए इट विल गेट अट्रैक्टेड फॉर रिसीविंग द अमाउंट फ्रॉम मिस्टर सोहम. ठीक है, फॉर रिसीविंग द अमाउंट फ्रॉम मिस्टर सोहम. सोहम किससे जो रिसीव हुआ उसका 2 लाख और मोर की कॉन्ट्रावेंशन हुई, सो इसके लिए रिसीव वो लगेगा. बट सिंस द अनदर अमाउंट द कंपनी इज रिसीविंग फ्रॉम अ डिफरेंट पर्सन, ठीक है, of 90,000, so that उसके लिए no contravention is there. Yes, you are right. Question number 3 का answer number A. Now question number 4. What is the time limit for filing tax audit report? It's a very general question. What is the time limit of filing? You have done it. I think your articleship may you have must be familiar with this tax audit report form 3CD and all. Yes, 1 month prior to the date of due date, right? And if the company does not file its tax audit report, what is the penalty? Yes, keep on saying ना, the principals keep on saying कि time से कर लो, इतना penalty देना पड़ेगा company को, so do it on time, and a lot of pressure is there on this day. So these are the penalty which every CA must, article is remembering कि this 5% or this your what we can say 5.5% or 1,50,000, whichever is less is the penalty amount, right? So accordingly, your answer is C. Yes, 39 and penalty is 1,50,000 is less. Accordingly, answer is C. It's very normal. Of course, you have to remember these sections also, 1,50,000, because they are testing on this section. Very easy provision, but कहीं ना कहीं your provisions की revision हुई यहाँ पे आपके 269 आपने revise किया, 269 ST you have revised, your 269T you have revised, and the consequential penal provisions also. So go through again. एक बार फिर से आज ही जाके provisions को और अच्छे से कर लेना कि किस form में और क्या tricks implement कर सकते हैं due to the language of the provisions. Next case scenario pertains to your non-resident taxation. Basically non-resident taxation, very general case scenario, and it's very easy. I think आपने पढ़ा हुआ है, and it can be seen कि you have gone through your things and you have done now your revisionary stages, right? So it's very easy. Here the Mrs. Bandana already given that she is an Indian citizen and she is a non-resident. Okay. Now some dividend income following information is given for her for the previous year 24-25. The dividend income from a company, Indian company, of 1,85,000. Then interest of debentures of Videocon Private Limited is there, 2,15,000. She incurred interest on loan taken for purchase of shares. How much? 45,000 and 55,000 expenditure are given. Okay. Then on 15th March, शी सोल्ड डिवेंचर्स ऑफ जार्गन लिमिटेड. यहाँ पे ऊपर में आपको प्राइवेट लिमिटेड के डिवेंचर्स दिए थे, यहाँ पे अदर एंटिटी के डिवेंचर्स दिए हैं, नॉट द सेम एंटिटी, for 22,75,000, which was subscribed in convertible foreign exchange on 10th June 2006 in dollars equivalent to 7 lakhs. So what is the cost of acquisition? It is this one. And she paid commission to broker of 8,000 at the time of sale. You have to see it's given at the time of sale. On 30th April, she has reinvested the sale proceeds of debentures for 8,40,000 for purchase of listed shares of an Indian company, Fortune Prime Limited. Some cost of inflation figures are there given to you. Then simple. Let's move to the question again. They are asking you what is the amount of dividend taxable in the hands of Mrs. Vandana, and at what rate by RF Limited is required to deduct tax at source on dividend income distributed to Mrs. Vandana. Here they are asking you कि कितना amount taxable होगा, how much is the amount taxable in her hands, and at what rate it would be, TDS would be deducted. You just tell me. There are 4 options given. 1,85,000. How much dividend she has received? She has received 1,85,000 dividend. And how much is the expenditure she has incurred? She has incurred the expenditure of interest expenditure. Keep in mind interest expenditure. 55. So it has a relevance. And no other expenses are allowed other than this interest. But whether it's allowed in case of non-resident or not, this is the testing in this. So how much? 1,85,000 is the dividend amount. And she has incurred 55,000. टैक्सेबल पूछा है, कितना अमाउंट टैक्सेबल होगा इनके हाथ में? And at what rate TDS is to be deducted? Should I show you the facts? It's given above. See, ऊपर ये 1,85,000 का डिविडेंड and interest of 55,000 for purchase of shares. ठीक है, 45,000 is with respect to the debentures interest and 55,000 is with respect to the dividend. ठीक है, what is the rate of? I am waiting for Prashant answer. Samyak, you please check it once. Yes. D is the correct answer. Why? Because that dividend amount is taxable in her hands by virtue of section 115A. Okay? And if the income is taxable by virtue of 115, no other deductions are allowable. And when we are talking about the TDS, then in case of non-residents, TDS is deductible, including surcharge and cess. Right? Accordingly 20.8%. यहाँ पे the important point क्या होता है? Suppose this dividend income is given net of taxes, okay, in your answer sheet, and you have to include in the total income of that SSC, that person. Then when you are grossing it up now, in case of a non-resident specifically, then you please keep in mind that TDS must be deductible, including the cess also. So जब आप करोगे इसमें तो 100 minus 20.8 करके you have to compute 79.2 करके, ठीक है, whatever be the income into 100 divided by 79.2, not 80%. When you are grossing up the income which is given net of taxes in the hands of non-resident assessee, then you have to consider the cess also. It sometimes happens कि we just skip and just do it 80%. ठीक है. Next question, if the assessee is a resident in India, if she is a resident in India, same facts, 1,85,000 is the dividend income and your expenses are also 55,000. Now you tell me what is the correct answer. 1,85,000 and 10%, 1,48,000 and 10%, 1,40,000 and 20%, and then 1,85,000 and 20%. Easy question. In the same MCQ, assuming for the purpose of this, she is a resident. Only for this MCQ we are asking. Dividend. And then your interest expenditure is 55,000. Prashant, it's A for this. Answer is B. Yes. आपको पता है ना, आपको by virtue of section 57, you will get a deduction in respect of interest expenditure of to the extent of 20% of that dividend amount. That will be eligible as your deduction in the hands of a resident. Non-resident के लिए that deduction is not permissible. और section 194 deals with this TDS rate. यहाँ पे 194 लगेगा TDS के लिए, वहां पे 195 लगेगा. 195 के अकॉर्डिंग you have to apply the rates in force, and rates in force are the rates specified in the particular section or at the end of your Finance Act schedule. वहां पे schedule में देखोगे second part of the schedule contains the first schedule में second part second contains the TDS rates specifically or rates given in the DTAs whichever is beneficial. तो वो आपको 195 के अकॉर्डिंग लगेगा. ठीक है, so 20% वहां से आया. एंड यहाँ पे आपका 194 लगता है इन केस ऑफ रेजिडेंट. The TDS on dividend income is deductible at the rate 20% without any cess or surcharge. And 20% of 1,85,000 comes to 37,000. ठीक है, इसमें से आपको only 37,000 will be eligible. Accordingly, it would be 1,48,000. ठीक है. Yes. Yes. So Prashant, you got it. Now they are asking you to compute the what is the amount of interest on debentures. Videocon Private Limited, taxable Mrs. Vandana, and at what rate it would be taxable? Ignore surcharge and cess. Interest also she received. How much interest? Let's go and see the facts. How much interest she has received? 2,15,000. Gross figures are given to you, and incurred the expenditure of 45,000. How much she has incurred? 45,000. So 2,15,000. And इसमें से how much is taxable in her hands? This is the question. How much is taxable? You just determine the taxable amount. And at what rate it would be taxable? So I got the answer. Very good. Without any deductions. Yes, it is again taxable as per the provisions of 115A. ये कोई ऐसे इंटरेस्ट नहीं है जो कि आपका 194 LC, LD, LD इन सब से रिलेट कर रहा है. इट इज अ जनरल इंटरेस्ट ऑन डिवेंचर्स एक्सपेंडिचर विच इज टू बी in foreign currency exchange only, right? So no deduction is permissible against this income. Here we are asking about the rate, not the TDS. If TDS hota 28.8% hota, and since we are asking only for what rate it would taxable in her hands, so it is coming to 2,15,000 at the rate 20%. ठीक है. एंड व्हेन यू आर कंप्यूटिंग योर आपका डिस्क्रिप्टिव होता, सपोज यहाँ पे तो आप इजीली आंसर करो. डिस्क्रिप्टिव होता तो आपको एवरीथिंग, इफ इट्स गिवन नेट ऑफ टैक्सेस, देन यू हैव टू ग्रॉसिंग इट अप एंड देन कंप्यूट द टोटल इनकम इंक्लूडिंग ऑल द इनकम्स. एंड जब आप टैक्स लायबिलिटी डिटरमाइन करोगे, specific rates are applicable in course of a non-resident, that specific rates has to be applied. Okay. Now the next question is, this is the last question and it has some computation. So I have to tell you the computation. यहाँ पे क्या question बोल रहे हैं इसमें बोल रहे हैं you have to compute the long term capital gains taxable in the hands of Mrs. Vandana on sale of debentures of Jargon Limited. Jargon Limited, as per the provisions of Chapter 12A. Chapter 12A contains the special provisions for the computing the is a tax total income and tax liability on a particular specified incomes के लिए, basically special provisions for the taxing the specific incomes, and ignore the effect of first proviso to section 48, that is benefit of foreign currency conversion, because indexation benefit is not available, already available, and when you are opting for this chapter 12A. And here, yeah, but of course foreign currency benefits you have to apply, but here the question is specifically asking you to ignore that. So figures are given. Let me take you to this thing. Let me take you to this facts. ठीक है, facts देखते हैं हम. आपको थोड़ा, I will give you 2 to 3 minutes. ठीक है, मैं थोड़ा सा इसको erase कर देती हूँ जिससे आपको easy हो जाए. These are the, ठीक है, यहाँ पे these two figures, 4th number point and 5th number point has to be computed. You have to compute the amount of long-term capital gains considering the provisions of chapter 12A. ठीक है, I am giving you 4 minutes time. Just compute it. Mm. 3 minutes टाइम, क्योंकि इससे ज्यादा मैं एग्जाम को नहीं मिलेगा आपको टाइम. एक एमसीक्यू करने के लिए विल गेट, मुझे 15 एमसीक्यूज करने के लिए शुड devote only 45 minutes, because descriptive takes time. You have to specify the substantiate with the proper reasonings and all. got the answer. A 14,82,000 you are arriving at, Prashant. Let's wait. You just again check it because you have to compute applying the provisions of chapter 12A, not the general provisions. There are the specific provisions basically contained in chapter 12A that the reinvestment in the specified assets is eligible for your, you can claim the deduction in respect of reinvestments, doing it in within 6 months. Proportional exemptions are available. You please recall it. Remy, have you done it? Let me show you now. I think it's already done. 3 minutes done. See, chapter 12 में क्या कहता है? Chapter 12 में क्या कहते हैं हम कि in respect of foreign exchange asset होना चाहिए. The person should be Indian citizen होना चाहिए, non-resident. Then you will be eligible for specific special rates कि वहां पे आपका investment income is taxable at the rate 20%. Your long-term capital gains are taxable at the rate 10% something. Or then you will be eligible for the deduction in respect of reinvestment in a specified assets, in respect of investment in specified assets. क्या है? Let's see. एक बार just I will go through it. Let's open this act itself. Yes, you are right. 932. 932,869. Yes, correct. So let's just brushing you just एक बार थोड़ा सा रिवाइज कर लेते हैं इसको. क्या है चैप्टर 12 का? Special provision relating to certain income of non-residents. यहाँ पे if you go and see this your capital gains on transfer of foreign not to be regarded as this the tax on investment income and long-term capital gains. क्या है यहाँ पे? What is this provision says? The total income comprising of your investment income or income from long-term capital gains. ठीक है? And income value of long-term capital gains will be taxable. Investment income is taxable at the rate 20%. And if transfer takes place, again यहाँ पे भी amendment है. If the transfer takes place after this on 23rd day of July 24, right? Your tax rate will be 12.5%. और before it is 10%. 10% था, 12.5% भी लगेगा. बट यहाँ पे हमें compute करना है long term capital gains. अब long term capital gains के लिए आपको what you have to do? 115H benefits. Where a person becomes accessible or he may furnish a declaration foreign exchange. Just a minute. Which section shall not apply? यहाँ पे क्या बोल रहे हैं? You will be eligible for this deduction where a non-resident Indian, okay, any long-term capital gains is arising from transfer of foreign exchange asset. Foreign exchange asset is a specified asset purchased in a convertible foreign currency. This is the case. Invested that amount within a period of 6 months after the date of the transfer, wholly or partly. Here it is partly being invested. So he will be, or the person will be eligible for proportionate deduction. अब यहाँ पे if you see, यहाँ पे this is the only trick. Net consideration क्या हो? 20 lakh, this your 22 lakh 75,000 is your sales consideration, and she paid commission, so 8,000 she has paid. It is coming to your 22,67,000. Okay, this is a net consideration. How much the cost of acquisition then? 7,85,000. So your long-term capital gains are coming to 14,82,000. ये आंसर आएगा आपका. Now specifically, because you are computing the long-term capital gains as per the chapter 12A, so you will be eligible for that exemption also. 115F की exemption जो थी, आपका कितना इन्वेस्ट किया इसने? 8,40,000. कंसिडरेशन कितना है? 1482. ठीक है, प्रोपोर्शनेट. आपका जो कैपिटल गेन्स है डिवाइडेड बाय नेट कंसिडरेशन. नेट कंसिडरेशन क्या होगा? ये लेना है आपको, नॉट दिस वन. सेल्स कंसिडरेशन ही नेट कंसिडरेशन है here. So it is 22,67,000. So ये आपका आ रहा है कंप्यूट करके, इट इज कमिंग टू 549,131. ठीक है, अकॉर्डिंगली योर लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन्स आर कमिंग टू 932,869. ओके, सो ये इन दिस वे यू हैव टू कंप्यूट इट. यहाँ पे सपोज सेम थिंग, अब यहाँ पे व्हेन शी इज सेलिंग 15th March 2025, अगर आपको इसी क्वेश्चन में टैक्स लायबिलिटी भी डिटरमाइन करनी पड़ती सपोज, तो इट वुड बी टैक्सेबल एट द रेट. At what rate it would be taxable? When she is taking a place, when the transaction is taking place, it would be taxable at what rate? Suppose in question में tax liability also need to be determined. Yes, 12.5% because transaction is taking place after 23rd July. So it would be taxable at 12.5%. आगे भी इसका क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते थे आपका डिस्क्रिप्टिव क्वेश्चन में, इट कैन बी टेस्टेड. ठीक है, सो चैप्टर 12 में स्पेसिफिक benefits are there in chapter 12A. Rates are more or less same. 12.5% है आपका लिस्टेड कंपनी का शेयर. अब 12.5% is applicable in all the cases, चाहे वो लिस्टेड हो चाहे नॉन लिस्टेड हो, बट यहाँ पे 1,25,000 के exemption is not available. ये it is directly taxable at the rate 12.5%. Okay, so this is about this case scenario which is on the this non-resident taxation. It just go through these provisions once again. Another provision is another case scenario using charitable trust. That is also very good case scenario. You go through it and you try to solve it. First go through the charitable trust provisions, क्योंकि वहाँ पे there is a integration of two or more provisions in that case scenario. You have to go through all the provisions of the charitable trust, then only you will be able to solve it. And we will be having another BoS for Success sessions after MTP2 series. So you try to solve that MTP2 series. Also, how many of you have solved this RTP? Yes, Prashant, you can. Yes.
This is MTP booklet.
Nee, this is from your MTP series I'm talking you. because for every attempt, two series of MTPs are conducted. This is MTP1 series for September 25 examination, and then another MTP series 2 will also be there for the next.
That this charitable trust question you are saying, this is from this MTP1.
Yeah, this is in this MTP itself. If you go, if you see, case scenario 3 is there, which is on charitable trust. You can solve this case scenario. Okay. And in case of any doubt, we can definitely, you can send a query also through this BOS knowledge put आपको जो app है, ask a query से you can send us the queries. In case you are finding you want to discuss something, you can just drop a query there. And in the next session, if we can take up this case scenario, or we can take up the another case scenario, this MTP series 2 also. Go through the RTP also. RTP contains the questions which are based on the latest amendments, or based on the stat update. आपको देखो guidelines are there for compounding of offenses. On that, one of the case scenario is given. Do solve that case scenario. It will just make you understand the guidelines pertaining to your this compounding of offenses. Okay, very good, very good. You have done it. Yeah, that's great. So you do solve it, but MTP series ठीक है, because आपको already publish हो गया. You can go and visit the branches to just have a understanding how you are going to attempt this in when you are giving in the examination conditions. So you can go there also and solve this MTPs. ठीक है, that's all for today. I think now our time to wind up the session. Thank you. Thank you so much for patiently listening. And really, it's a wonderful session that you are interacting and you are replying. It's really very nice of you. And thank you so much. You have, okay, in MCQs, you are saying. That's great. That's great, Samir. That's good. So wish you all the very best. Take care of yourself. Take repetitive revisions are required, right? So do revise the things whenever you are doing. That's what I am saying. आपने अगर आप जो भी provisions करो थोड़ा again उसको revise कर लो तो आपका उसी time पे वो complete हो जाएगा provisions. वो sections आपको then and there you are just revising and उस तरीके से आपका portion is content is completing. So that strategy can be used. This is my suggestion. That's all. Thank you so much. Now we can wind up the session, technical team. Thank you so much. Technical team, we can close up the session. Ma'am, is this continue with Ashit sir also the same link? तो सेशन एंड हो गया. आशीष सर ने ज्वाइन किया जो ओपन हाउस सेशन है ना, ओपन क्वेरी सेशन से, वो इसी लिंक पे चलेगा. हाँ, ये वाला एंड हो गया. आशीष has joined, so that's why I'm asking. ओ जो आपका ओपन सेशंस है ना, क्वेरी सेशंस, एक बार पूछो यही लिंक है, बिकॉज आशीष सर ने ज्वाइन किया हुआ है ना. आप लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग तो यू डन इट ना, क्लोज्ड इट? नहीं नहीं, लाइव आप बंद कर दीजिए।